Am I the asshole for unpacking my girlfriend's towel? I, 31 male, and my girlfriend, 25 female, have been dating for about 2 years. My girlfriend has beautiful hair that seems a lot more low maintenance than most women I know. She doesn't use all 100 different hair products, nor does she blow dry it. It honestly doesn't take her long to style her hair or anything. However, she always insists on using this special towel to dry her hair. She insists that she can't use any regular towel for her hair. She gets mad if I use her hair towel as a regular towel too. She says that the towel should only be used for her hair. She even bought an extra one of these towels that she keeps in a drawer at my place. She also takes the towel with her when she goes on vacation. I usually don't mind it since the towel doesn't take up much space and it is better than listening to a hairdryer all the time. But it's a bit weird because I don't know anyone else who has a towel just for their hair. For Thanksgiving, we traveled to see my family. Before the trip, I asked my girlfriend to leave her towel at home, since we'll be staying at my parents' house. I didn't want my family to think she was weird or make fun of her. Since we planned to leave early in the morning, girlfriend spent the night at my place. I noticed that she packed the towel she kept at my place in her suitcase. When she was asleep, I took the towel out. She didn't notice the towel was gone until after we got to my parents' place. I thought it was okay, and my girlfriend didn't seem mad at all during the whole trip. However, when we got back to my place, my girlfriend got into her car and drove off without saying goodbye. She texted me later saying she's mad at me because of that stupid towel and she needs some space. I keep calling and texting her, but she won't respond. My friends think she's being overly dramatic, but my girlfriend isn't that type of person. Now I'm wondering if I messed up. Am I the asshole for ditching my girlfriend for one night while away on holiday? So my partner and I are going to my hometown just after Christmas. Her family is all in Japan. We are spending 2 weeks, of which most will be spent with my family and a few days of us exploring by ourselves. My high school friends want to make plans to catch up and get an Airbnb and spend the night playing games, etc. I asked my girlfriend if she minds if I don't bring her along, as none of my other friends are bringing their partners, and it changes the dynamic somewhat. English isn't her first language, so a lot of the games we'd like to play would be too difficult for her. I gave her the option she could stay with my family, whom she has met before, or she could stay with my high school friends as girlfriends, whom we have stayed with before, and we will probably stay with for one night again. She blew up, now saying she isn't coming on the trip anymore, etc., etc. I then offer instead to fly to my hometown a couple days earlier than originally planned to catch up with my friends, and then I'll pick her up from the airport. This, too, is not an option apparently, and she maintains she is no longer coming on the trip, which, by the way, I paid for half the flight. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for suggesting my daughter skip Hanukkah gifts this year? I, 58 male, have 3 children. My daughter Marie, 28, and my son Frank, 25, are from my first wife, and I have a son Chris, 7 male, with my new wife, all fake names. I admit that Chris is a little spoiled and used to get in his way. Marie got married 2 years ago and her husband is Jewish. She celebrates Hanukkah with him and his son, John, 8 male, and family. John lives with them full-time as his mom is not in the picture. They also come to see us for Christmas, which would be via Zoom this year. So we usually do a 4-gift rule when it comes to Christmas since Chris tends to get stuff throughout the year. Well, he came home from school last week saying how a kid in his class is Jewish and he gets a present every night of Hanukkah, and how it wasn't fair that he was getting 8 presents and he only got 4. I pointed out that he also got things throughout the year and that I wasn't sure if the gifts were even that good. He started complaining that John was going to get 8 gifts and then whatever we got him, and he was only going to get 4 and whatever they got him. I said it didn't actually matter, but I ended up having to send him to his room to calm down. I called Marie and asked if they could maybe skip Hanukkah gifts this year because it upset Chris so much knowing that John was going to have so many more gifts than him. She said no. They had already bought all of his gifts, and considering Chris wasn't even going to see what he got, it shouldn't be a big deal. I admit I got a little frustrated and said it wouldn't kill her to do something that could help her brother. She told me that Chris was being a spoiled brat about gifts, and it wouldn't be helping him to deny John his gifts they spent time and energy picking out, just so he wouldn't throw a tantrum. I lost my temper and said she wasn't even his real mom, so I wasn't sure why she was picking some kid she wasn't even related to over her brother. I regret saying that. She blew up, and the short of it is, I'm a terrible person. She has no interest in helping spoil Chris any more than he already is, and she will not be celebrating via Zoom with us this year, and does not want to hear from me again anytime soon. I shouldn't have said what I did, I admit that, but she hung up before I could apologize. Now Mark, his older son, is on my case, saying that I need to stop babying Chris and that he wouldn't be seeing either of us because if he or Marie acted like Chris acts, I'd have punished them. I'm frustrated, and my wife says she understood my heart was in the right spot, but it was kind of unreasonable to ask them not to celebrate Hanukkah because Chris felt slighted. I don't really think I was so wrong to ask, but maybe it was unreasonable. I don't think my kids should be this angry at me, though. It was suggested I post here. Am I the asshole for telling the kids their dad took this year's Christmas away from them? Please read before you judge. Thank you. So I'm a working mother of 3, 9, 11, and 5. My husband used to have a job but was let go at the end of 2020 and hasn't worked since then. Yes, he worked in a few places here and there like the gas station, but he couldn't keep it because he, quote, lacked motive and passion. All in all, our financial situation isn't so great, but I've decided to start saving money to be able to get the decent Christmas celebration the kids wanted and couldn't get in 2019 through 2020. I've put money aside to buy decoration and prepare meals and also gifts, but just a couple of days ago found out that my husband had taken $500 out of my account and from the money I saved. The rest of my salary goes towards bills and groceries, and gave it to his little brother to help him out in child support. I found out and had a huge argument with him about how he essentially stole this year's Christmas from the kids to help his irresponsible brother pay for child support. My husband apologetically said he had no choice and was pushed by family to contribute and pay part of his brother's child support. Otherwise, they won't see their nephew/grandchildren, since his brother's baby mama is vicious and spiteful. The kids came in, and I just told them that unfortunately I can't afford Christmas this year, and it's because of their dad, who took it away from them by taking the money I saved. There was utter silence, and my husband glanced at me in disbelief. He told the kids to go to their rooms and screamed, asking, "What the fuck is wrong with me to spout this kind of bullshit in front of the kids?" I said, it's the truth, and that I've sacrificed so much to save money to give the kids some joy this holiday. Then he selfishly took the money and gave it away. He said he would pay me back in time before Christmas, but I don't see how this is possible since he doesn't even have money for gas. He got pissed and said I shouldn't tell the kids that he took their Christmas money and that the psychological damage I'm doing to the kids is worth a lot more than money, and accused me of turning the kids against him and making them resent him for trying to help out a family member. He stormed off and spent time with his family, who accused me of causing my children mental traumas by saying their dad took Christmas away from them and alienating them from him. Just wanted to say this, that the kids know that mommy is the one who brings home money, and so if Christmas gets canceled and because of money, then they'll think it's because of me. I had many, many conversations with them about it, and last thing I want is to see them disappointed in me for something that is not my fault. Thank you. I, 26 male, want to refuse to go to my family's party because my fiance, 26 male, is extremely uncomfortable around them. Just 2 years ago, I was at work when I received a call from my mom. She told me that I was uninvited from my family's Christmas party that was to be hosted by my aunt, R55, also my godmother. My aunt had explained to my mom that it was because I planned on bringing my fiance, and if I came without him, I was more than welcome to attend. To which I replied, that simply will not happen. I wasn't going to spend my holiday without my fiance. I was devastated and heartbroken. I'm at work, crying at my desk. I come from a very religious family, so I had kind of expected some people to be better. So the real reason I was upset over this was because my own mother hadn't stood up for me and the person I love. Now, about a week after receiving the uninvitation, my uncle had texted me to tell me that he had taken over the Christmas party planning so that C was able to come. It was to be held at a local pizza parlor with a lower level for private parties. Even though this gesture is extremely thoughtful and my uncle bent over backwards to help make, quote, the family gaze feel included, we can't help but feel like we are stepping on toes. We feel extremely uncomfortable because R shows up. Part of me thinks that she comes solely to make us feel unwelcome and out of place. Are we assholes if we RSVP and say that we aren't attending this year, even though this annual party was started so we would actually receive an invite?
Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's the reason I'll never adopt? I, 30 female, have 3 bio siblings. 37 male, 36 male, and 33 female. And an adoptive sister, 31 female. My sister, who I will call Becky's bio mom, is my mom's cousin. The story of Becky getting adopted by my parents was basically her bio parents were addicts that just came one day out of the blue for a visit, then abandoned her at our house. She was 5 weeks old. For a few weeks, they tried to get my cousin's family to take her, but those a-holes didn't want the shame of a baby with medical issues that was born out of wedlock. My parents fell in love with Becky, and the rest was history. Thankfully, all Becky really needed was love and a good home. She beat a lot of odds and leads a healthy, successful life. My parents never hid the fact Becky was adopted. She's biracial. And we all learned about her heritage growing up. Everything was perfect, until her parents reached out when she was 22. They were clean and wanted a relationship. In the space of a few months, she became a different person. It was like she hated us for taking her away from her bio parents. And as soon as she finished college and got the 20,000 euro check my parents gifted her, it's a startup we all got. She ghosted us and sent a letter to my parents telling them that if they ever tried to contact her again, she will file a restraining order. She got married, and none of us even knew. Her mother passed away when she was 26, which led her father to relapse that unfortunately died 8 months later. After that, Becky reached out. My parents welcomed her back with open arms, but I still can't, which leads to now. Me and my husband recently had a baby via IVF after 6 years trying. 5 natural. I brought my son to meet the family tonight. And after dinner, all of us girls were in the living room. I brought up how he was worth everything, explaining my struggles, and that I'm gonna start naturally trying soon, so he will have a sibling. Becky made a comment about why we didn't look into adoption since the world was already overpopulated. And I told her, honestly, we thought about it. But after all the crap you pulled, I'm afraid you're the reason I will never adopt. Becky yelled at me to get over it already, then left. And my mother said I shouldn't have spoken to her like that, so in the end I ended up leaving early too. My siblings are on my side, but my parents are extremely mad. Am I the a-hole for calling my husband a bad father because he allows his adult daughter's birthday to overshadow Christmas every year? When I met my husband James, he had a 14-year-old daughter Ella. Ella and I never really bonded, as she doesn't really like people. James always told me to leave Ella alone and respect her boundaries. I do believe he took her boundaries too far in some cases, as Ella is now a 27-year-old woman who refuses to speak when she doesn't want to. I have a 13-year-old daughter, Ava. Their pregnancy was a surprise, and I know the timing is bad, that I got pregnant right around the time I met Ella. And honestly, I have always felt that James prefers Ella. Ella is a lot like him personality-wise, and it is very subtle. But I feel like he loves Ella more. Ella never accepted her sister or I, but I've made peace with that, because getting Ella to speak is literally like pulling teeth. Ava hates Ella, but she knows that she has to be civil to everyone. Ella's birthday is December 23rd, and as a result, James never made too big of a deal about Christmas. Her birthday always took priority. This became an issue when Ava was born. James had always promised Ella he would take her to Europe to her 16th birthday, and Ella was insistent it had to be on her actual birthday. So to Christmas when Ava was 2, he actually missed Christmas, and we had a first fight of our entire marriage. He also told Ella crazy things, like if a man doesn't make a big deal out of her birthday, to dump his aunt, and that her birthday is much more important than Christmas. As a result, Ava complains every year that James cares more about Ella's birthday than about Christmas, and that she thinks Ella gets an unfair amount of money spent on her. Her birthday are usually expensive. And 2 years ago, she had a December wedding which James fully paid for. Even that Christmas, he refused to not do something elaborate for her birthday, and couldn't understand why Ava was annoyed. Also, Ella hosts a huge Christmas Eve which we're all invited to, but Ava and I didn't go, due to it mostly being her husband's family. So everything in December sometimes feel it is about Ella. This year, I feel bad, because I couldn't get Ava what she really wanted because it is out of stock. But Ella just had a baby and my husband bought her a ring with a baby's birthstone, which Ava knows about. Now Ella wants to go to Colorado for her birthday/Christmas Eve. James said he is going to go, because he can drive back and be home by about 10. I finally got annoyed and asked if he thinks he spent a fair amount of money/time/energy in Ella versus Ava, and I said it makes every Christmas about Ella and her birthday. He said I was being unfair because Ella has never excluded me from her plans, though she's rude and doesn't talk to me either. Finally, I snapped at him that he is a bad father, because one of his kids is a grown woman and one is not. He is now upset and says that was mean to say, and I just don't like Ella and he tries his best. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my wife whenever she talks condescendingly about our son's work? So basically, my son is a professional aerial performer, and is currently performing in this large and popular horror-themed circus where we live. I know I may be biased, but in my opinion, he's really good, and it's just amazing to watch him perform. Maybe a little scary sometimes, and sometimes I worry about him with some of the tricks and acts he does. My wife, however, will just tell people who works in the circus. never mentioning that he's an aerial performer, that he actually works independently and is basically a contractor, that he works with a very large and popular circus, just that he works in a circus. Whenever we are out and she sees a clown, she will point at it and say, "Look, it's son's name." And it is very clear she looks down on him for what he does. She assumes he makes next to nothing and is poor. I know he's not. He doesn't make a crazy amount, but he makes enough to support himself well. This all came to a head when we were with some of her friends, and one of them asked if our son could entertain her kids at a birthday party, promising to pay him generously since he must be struggling. My wife laughed and responded with, "I'll see if he's free." I butted in saying, "You probably won't be able to since the birthday falls on a day when Popular Circus, which is where he works as a headline aerial act in, is fully booked because it's so close to the new year." Almost everyone there was shocked since all this info was new to them. My wife looked pissed and left. She sat in the car and texted me that she wants to leave. I stayed for about 20 minutes answering questions and showing them some videos. The woman who asked apologized, saying she was given the impression by my wife that our son was a struggling and failing cheap circus performer and wanted to help him. When I finally left and got in the car, my wife yelled at me, saying that I made her look like an idiot and a horrible mother in front of her friends. When we got home, she stormed out the car and locked herself in our bedroom crying loudly. She's been like this for almost an hour now, and I'm starting to feel awful and like an a-hole. I could have just left it alone. So am I the a-hole? I found out that my parents paid out my sister's tuition loans and pressured them to keep it a secret from me. Not that I'm jealous or even slightly upset. I'm just curious to find out why, and more importantly, why they stressed it should be kept a secret from me. My 23 male recently graduated from a top master's degree. During my undergrad, I had many scholarships and grants. Everything was virtually free. For the miscellaneous, it was super expensive, so I took out a loan to cover the cost. It was fine by me because now I make twice as much as I paid, and I can easily redeem my debt if I wanted to. My parents didn't contribute to my education, and I never asked them to. Recently, I found out that my sisters, 25 and 21, had no outstanding debt. I had to arrange trades and due diligence in their accounts. As requested, it was surprised to see no debt, considering that a year earlier they couldn't stop complaining about it. $150,000 combined. I was happy for them at first glance, but when I told them about it over Thanksgiving, they seemed shaken, like I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Few days later, my older sister told me that our parents paid everything for them, and were clear in instructing them to keep me in the dark. I asked why, but couldn't get a definitive answer. From what I could tell, my sister knows the reason, but has refused to tell me. I'm just really curious. I have a great relationship with my parents. They've always been positive about my education and work. I'm just fretting the possibility they might be thinking I'm a failure or too reckless or such like. Again, I earn decently and live very comfortably, and my parents know all about it. Not sure if I'm just making a big deal out of nothing, but would really appreciate any insight here. Do I just leave it behind or talk about it? Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of my nephew's trust assets? Before his death, my father chose me as trustee for a trust that he set up for Jacob, my severely disabled nephew, but my sister was jealous about not having been chosen as trustee and asked me to quit. She once admitted that she had plans for how to spend the trust money, such as to spend it not only on Jacob, but also on other relatives she is fond of who are not named in the trust. I thought that would be wrong and would cause trouble. Although my sister knows I'm an honest person, she told my nephew and his family that I was stealing much of the money in the trust, and suggested that I should be sued and removed as trustee. Until she made those false statements, Jacob and I got along very well together, especially since I kept sending money from the trust for whatever he needed. But after that, he no longer trusted me, even though I offered to sit down with him and go through all the accounts and explain everything in detail so he might understand. Unfortunately, he is confused and easily manipulated. At the encouragement of some of his relatives who are very interested in the trust money, he hired a lawyer who sent me letters accusing me of criminal actions and threatening to take me to court to remove me as trustee. I cared deeply about Jacob, so I warned him that his legal action against me would force me to hire my own lawyer, that the trust would have to pay for and that it would be expensive. But he didn't listen and said he didn't care. He told me he had been assured by people he trusted that I would have to pay for all of his and my legal fees out of my own pocket. In order to prove that I had stolen nothing and remained trustee, I had to pay several $1,000s from the trust for legal expenses. Jacob was shocked that the amount was far more than he had expected, and I don't think he understands what was proven when his lawyer gave up and quit after reviewing my clean accounts. Now, almost everyone, including Jacob, says I'm a terrible trustee and that I abused Jacob and did not act in his best interest by wasting trust money. I hated having to spend trust money on legal fees, but I was trying to protect the trust from people who might have misused it if they had taken over as trustee. I was afraid that if I didn't remain trustee, the entire amount of money in the trust would disappear at the hands of my eager successor, and Jacob would get nothing more. Now he continues to get large, regular monthly payments. Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of trust money?
The sea